English Language Teaching. Under the Covers.
Hello and welcome back to ELT Under the Covers, ELT React. We are English language teaching professionals, and in this video we will be looking and reacting to giving a little bit of analysis about a communicative language teaching class for pre-intermediates. But first, introductions. I'm Neil of Team Teacher.
Hello everybody, it's Professor Rich.
So we're continuing our series of looking at different communicative language classes, and today we're looking at a pre-intermediate level class, and this is again taken from the Bible, Jeremy Harmer's How to Teach English. It's with Kit, and I believe he is talking about directions, new directions. How do you feel about new directions? Okay, so a pre-intermediate class, what can we expect from a pre-intermediate class?
I went to the park and I had a ice cream, something like that. No,
So a little bit more accurate.
On Saturday, I went to my
fluent.
village and I spoke to my friends. One of these days, I'm going to do one of these accents, and there's going to be a comment like, "Oh my god, this person is clearly massively racist."
You never specify what accent it is. It could just be your original accent.
It's kind of a mix of Mediterranean students, isn't it? I mean, you go back to when you were a beginner teacher and you hear that, don't you? A lot. Because teachers as well, to start with, they love that. Hey, what did you do this weekend, guys? As a classroom warmer, right? Particularly if you're doing past tenses. Woo! And you always get that answer, don't you? In Valencia, it was always like, I went to my village and I did nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing is special. Nothing is special. That's the one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So we're kind of looking at students that they can actually produce strings of English, longer sentences. Maybe they're not so fluent with it. Generally, they're kind of accurate, but it's a little bit rough sometimes.
It tends to be very difficult for pre-intermediate students to produce sentences, doesn't it? To actually be fluent. Normally there's a big problem with fluency. And it tends to be the exception when you get someone who's very fluent at pre-intermediate. That tends to be a special case. What I've found is that the people who are very fluent at pre-intermediate, they're the people who've been pre-intermediate for ages, and they just don't have that self-reflection when they're speaking. It's the example of the student who is the opposite of most students, in that they do the speaking but they don't do the study. See, the problem that a lot of language students have is that they do the study but they don't do the speaking. Big problem in Asia, for example. Mm-hmm. But the problem that this specific student has that I talk about, the fluent pre-intermediate plateau, is someone who they're great at speaking and even expressing themselves, but they make the same mistake again and again. And I've had students like that, and to be honest, I'm not really sure how to solve that one. That's kind of outside of my box of tricks. I've tried all kinds of things, and I've had students that are almost carbon cutouts of each other. They're very, very similar, really fluent, but always using that same kind of stuck vocabulary. Going back to the main point here about pre-intermediates, they are the exception. The vast majority of pre-intermediate students are likely to be, as you portrayed them, they will have a decent knowledge of certain grammar structures, they've probably gone through a beginner level course,
Mm.
right? They'll understand past tenses and things like that normally. It's quite rare that you find someone where you actually have to teach, oh, yes, we make the regular past by adding ed. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure if I've ever taught that in 15 years. You normally teach it in terms of pronunciation, don't you? This is when you say tud and this is when you say, that's normally how we approach it, because we know that they know the form. Everybody knows it, unless you have an absolute beginner. So, yeah, they have this kind of basic knowledge, but they really struggle to express themselves. So it's the opposite problem. This is often a student who does have grammatical knowledge, sometimes even above the level, but needs to speak more.
Yeah. Yeah. So you'll often get a lot of functional language at this point, and directions is always great because there's lots of activities to do with directions. Sometimes involve students getting lost, as has happened to me. But but I'm interested into what Kit, love it, what he's going to do.
We're going to talk about directions. We're going to be talking about asking and giving directions.
So here's something that we don't see that much, do we, in these videos, either because it's cut or because they don't do it. Do you know what this is called, Neil?
I can't remember the specific terminology, but it's basically you're telling the students what you're going to do before you do it. What do they call it now? Signaling, flagging.
That's close. Yeah, it's signposting.
Signposting. Yes. Sorry.
Yeah. Are you a signposter?
It depends. I actually signpost a lot with young kids because I find that they just at the beginning of the class, so they're always in that routine of getting ready. So they know they know to put their things away. They know to get whatever book out. They know to organize themselves. Yeah, but we will kind of go over what we're going to look at in the broad topic, and then what we're going to do as kind of like the fun activity. So I kind of use signposting as a way of classroom management.
Okay, that's interesting because it kind of helps to keep things kind of structured.
Yeah, because I had in China I had large classes, so we would do some drills, and they weren't always so keen on the drills, but we would talk about what's going to be happening at the end and why we do this to kind of go into the more the fun activity, so to speak.
Okay, because it's kind of like you can show them the carrot at the end. Okay. Yeah. It's something that I do to varying degrees, much like yourself. And it's one of the things that I think, in terms of the rationale, I think it's something where I lean on what I'm told rather than really understanding from my experience the rationale of it. So, because you can ask students, you can say to them, "Oh, was it helpful for you to know what we were doing in the class?" You might get a variety of answers. "Oh, I don't even remember," or "Oh, yes, of course, it's great to know." But I don't feel like from experience I can really confidently say whether it's useful or not. And the reason for that is because I think there's something to be said for the element of surprise. Particularly if you do things in a particular way, because we all, I think it's quite easy to convince someone of the importance of pre-activation of schematic knowledge, right? Or activating schemata or whatever. it's quite easy to convince someone of that. Like if you start, it's basically you're giving context, aren't you? If you start talking about cars and then you move into a class where you're giving people the names of parts of cars, they're going to deal with that better than if you just start the class with, here's a picture of a car, let's have a look at some parts, right? Because it activates those parts of the brain. They're kind of ready and engaged. And then you get the specific bits of the car, and it's easier for everyone to deal with that. And people perform better. And there's studies that back that up, but also you can see that with your experience. I mean, if you just start talking about something in a class without easing them into it, you'll see the look of confusion on students' faces. It's so apparent. But then, so I think there is something to be said for that. But I feel like you can do that without giving the game away, right? Without saying, all right, so today we're going to talk about cars, and then I'm going to, label a car, and then we're going to look at the pronunciation of bits of cars, and then we're going to like design our own car and tell other people about it, and, and letting them know exactly what's going to happen. I feel like you can do it. And this is probably the way that I like to do it. I like it to be a bit more ambiguous. So I don't want to give the game away. And I think I know that some people are not keen on that and some people are. Like Jamie Keddy, he very much has a kind of what's in the mystery box style of lesson, right? And it's the mystery box, the mystery box, the mystery box. Whoa, and I like that. I think that's a nice part of a lesson. And sometimes I think that this signposting, it can kind of reveal a bit too much about what's inside the box. Like I have a class where students plan a robbery of a museum. It's a TBL class. And I think the class works better when you don't actually tell them, oh, today we're going to learn how to plan a robbery. I think that's boring. I think it's much better to kind of ease them into it. Like you show a picture of a robber and say like, what's this? What do they do? Have you ever been this person? Would you ever do this? Kind of lead them into it and then show them the picture of a museum and say, oh, what do you think we're going to do here? What we're going to do today? Get people guessing about it, a bit of intrigue. And for me, I prefer that. So when it comes to signposting, I'll tend to have it quite functional, but I still sort of feel like I'm flapping about in the wind a bit. Like I don't really know what the best way of doing it is. And I've tried different things. Like sometimes I'll have a list of the things we're going to do. Like for that class about the planning a robbery, what I'll say is, today we're going to do a planning task and look at useful language, analyze the pronunciation, and then perform another planning task, right? So it's kind of ambiguous, but gives them some ideas, right? And then what I'll do is I'll cover up some of the words. And this is just to make sure that students actually read it. And then the first task, as we wait for students to arrive to the class, will be, what do you think the hidden words are? So people actually have to read the signposting and say, oh, that's planning probably. And that's, I don't know, useful language, useful maybe, whatever. Yeah. But I'm not 100% certain of how useful that is or whether that's even the best way of doing it. And to be honest, from classes that I've seen, and I'm also sort of seeing this here, to be honest, it tends to be a step that people do almost just to tick a box. They just want the observer to go, signposting, tick. And it's very much the opposite end of reflection. So you get your first 1 minute is your signposting, tick, and your last 1 minute is, what did you learn today? You write it on the board, discuss with a partner, 1 minute, tick, reflection, right? Without kind of really making enough of it, I think.
Yeah, I can see it. I can also see it as like new teachers doing it so they can refer back to it and like, where am I in my lesson?
Yeah, totally.
But I think doing it helps with the affective filter because the students are less anxious because they kind of know what's coming and they kind of feel a little bit prepared in that the wheels can start turning. But I think another way to do that is, as you describe, where you kind of just present the language in a roundabout way. So, like maybe you want to talk about abilities or something like that, can. So you show some pictures of animals and get them to talk about animals and, point out some of the things that animals can do. And, they don't know, is it going to be a class about animals? Is it going to be a class about doing, using can? There's different ways of doing it, but you still need to have that engagement so that there is a balancing act of not being so specific, of saying we are going to do a class about directions. You are going to learn the words up, down, spin me right round, baby. No, I'm going to just show you a picture of a lost tourist. Yeah. What does this lost tourist need?
So basically, it's not going to be like, so today I'm going to tell you a story about a postman where he confuses my name for someone else. But I think that he was talking about drugs. And you find out at the end of the class, actually, he wasn't talking about drugs.
Yeah.
He was talking about someone called Miss. Yeah. So there's a balance, isn't there? There's somewhere in the middle.
You got to follow the Christopher Nolan. What is it? The prestige. What is it? The demonstration, the twist, and then the prestige. You want to keep the prestige in your pocket until the end, and then you whip out the new direction.
That's right. Well, let's see how Kit does with his new directions.
We're going to be doing some listening and some speaking, and we'll look at some useful vocabulary. We're going to listen to 3 people asking for directions and getting directions. Please, can you write what I tell you? Number 1. What is the name? What is the name of the place they are looking for?
What do you think that I think about that?
It's kind of a little bit redundant.
Not redundant. Well, it is It is a bit redundant. You mean kind of a bit of a what is the name of the place they're looking for?
Yeah,
seems a bit excessive. Yeah, it's the way you said it as well.
To write it down, but synthetic language.
No, well, actually, I quite like that because it's a bit more engaging than saying like, page 4. Look at the questions. We're going to listen and answer the questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like I quite like this because it's a bit of comprehension practice, and I think it's a bit more engaging, and it doesn't involve looking at the book. I always think looking at the book, the problem with looking at the book is there's too much on the book. So if you look at exercise 1, you'll probably look at exercise 2 and 3 and 4. You always get that situation where some kid has like filled in the entire like double page of the book in the first 5 minutes of the lesson, right?
Yeah.
So it's best to control that as much as possible. I think it's one of the things that I like about teaching online actually, is that you have sort of complete control over that sort of thing. But yeah, no, I quite like this sort of dictation way of doing questions.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done it myself in a while, but I do think it's good. But what I do think is that he should be saying the questions naturally. He should actually be saying the questions in a way that, someone would say the questions. So what's the name of the place they're looking for? Right? Not what is the name of the place, right? Because you're obviously going to check this. You have to check it. You have to check that they've got the right questions written down, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's because you need to know that people actually have they're doing a comprehension listening activity. They need to actually have the questions correct. So you're going to have to show the real ones. So you don't need to be so clear you don't need to treat this as an instruction giving part of the class, where, in my opinion, instruction giving is the one place where we can argue that synthetically simple language is okay. But here, I would not class this part as instruction giving. This is a dictation as part of the establishing what they're going to listen for. And I think for me, it would be much better for those to be natural.
Well,
so what's the name of the place they're looking for?
Why is he doing it? He's doing it obviously because he thinks that they might not understand. So he's chopping it up. Then my question is, well, why didn't he just grade the question? You know, make the question easier so he can do it more authentic. You know, be like, could he not just say, "Where's the place?"
Yeah. What? Yeah.
What's the place they mention?
What's the place they want? You could make it easier. True. Yeah. Which would be a better way of doing it than doing it in this pronunciation way. But I don't think you do need to make it easier. I don't think you do need to, because they don't need to 100% get it. That's the thing. And actually, I think that should have been in his instructions. He didn't need to say it because he is saying it so simply that you would expect everyone to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Even if they don't know the words, they'll write something similar to it from the way that he's saying it, surely, because he's being so word by word. But what he could have done is in his instructions said, okay, I'll read the questions. You write what you hear. It's okay if you don't get the exact words. Just try to get the idea or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And then you go into your questions. So that's your synthetic instruction language, which obviously, if you were planning a class, then you could plan that better than I just did on the spot then. And then you go into your natural language. So what's the name of the place they're looking for? What's the name of the place they're looking for? You can always slow it down a bit. What's the name of the place they're looking for? Slow it down a bit, but you still keep those weak forms. Mm-hmm. What's the name of the place they're looking for? Mm-hmm. Right? Instead of what is the name, right? Mm-hmm. That's all. I have a massive bugbear about it, you know. But
I know. And we'll post videos here and here.
And do you guys know? Oh, The Rock is coming for you. Okay. That was more like Hulk Hogan, wasn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Hulk out on you if you use synthetic language in class. Whoa.
It's more of a 70s coked out of your mind.
Professor Hulk.
Stacy, can you repeat that back to me?
What is the name of the press?
There we see exactly what the problem is with giving synthetic models. Now you have a student copying your model. She did a good job of copying it, didn't she? She sounded just like him. What is the name of the place you are looking for?
Oh dear.
So how's he going to deal with this? I think he's going to ignore it because it was his error. But I did like the fact that he nominated. That's a good way of getting feedback. Mm-hmm. And also it allows the other students to check as well.
Okay. Is that what we all have?
Don't particularly like that question. Good. Is that what we all have? No one's going to say no, are they?
Number 2, how are they going to get there? How are they going to get there?
He's checking. He's doing a little bit of monitoring.
Are they going?
Which is fine. Looking, yeah.
It's better than going. Is that good? Yeah, we're all good. Okay.
yeah. It's all right to check like that. I quite like it.
I know some people wasn't being sarcastic.
It's hovering, or it like makes students nervous. That's a load of nonsense, in my opinion. I think students quite like it when you look at what they've written, actually. Mm-hmm. Anyways, it looks like he's going to do a pair thing here.
Yeah, he's just got gun fingers.
Please look at your partner and see if they have the same.
We love the talk together thing.
I prefer the check with the partner than nominating. it feels a little easier, especially if he's worried about effective filter or being making students anxious.
I think, yeah.
Check with the
I
partner,
think it
or
depends.
check with the partner and then nominate. Oh my goodness, stack it.
Yeah, it depends on difficulty though, doesn't it? Because you can end up spending 10 minutes over something that should take 5 when it's like check with a partner for everything. And you get that kind of like, it becomes a bit mechanical sometimes, doesn't it? It's like activity, check with a partner, nominate feedback, next activity, dum, 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 and I know that is the classic communicative language teaching way, but yeah, I feel like you should do it depending on difficulty. Should do it depending on difficulty and confidence of students as well. And well, there's a few kind of cheeky tricks, isn't there, where you can look and see who's got the right answer and then nominate them so that no one gets embarrassed by not quite having the answer right.
Yeah, everyone's got their best student. What was the text? I missed the text.
What do you mean? Oh, the text. Okay, yeah. He's drawn a listening grid on the board with columns for where and how.
A listening grid. I love it.
A listening grid on the board for columns for where and how. Columns for where and how. Okay. How does this relate to the questions you just dictated? I'm a little bit confused.
Well, I guess we're going to find out in the listening grid with Richard O'Brien.
Okay. Everybody ready to listen?
What do we see? Can we see the listening grid? Where, how? Oh, so where and how are just abbreviations of his questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just
couldn't they just write where and how? Well, sure.
Good.
1.
Excuse me.
Yeah?
Can you help me? I'm looking for Church Street.
Church Street? Sorry, I don't really know. Do you know where Church Street is?
Where? Church Street?
Church Street? Oh, right, yeah. You go down to the end here, down to this set of traffic lights, and turn left at the lights. That's Renton Street. And when you come to another set of lights, go straight on. And then the next right is Church Street. There's a big garage, you can't miss it.
So it's left at the lights, then second right where the garage is.
That's it.
Okay then, thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Okay, so now that we've got the full context of the listening, I think I totally agree with you about the questions that he asked. I think what is the name of the place they're looking for is a terrible question. It should just be where do they want to go?
Yeah.
And I can't remember what the next one was, but yeah. How do they get there? Was it how do they get there? Or did he say something
how do
more
they get there? But that's kind of ambiguous.
How do they get there would be the good one. And where do they want to go would be fine. I don't know about this. What is the name of the place they're looking for or whatever? I mean, yeah, naturally it could be, you could have a question like that, but for a listening comprehension question, just make it simple, right? We're practicing listening comprehension. The audio, I would probably rate 4 out of 10, which is not as bad as most audios from course books, but also not great. Is it?
It reminds me of an IELTS one where they're always trying to confuse. It feels like they're purposely trying to confuse you. But yeah, I don't. Here's the thing with this is, I still don't feel like it's very clear on what they're doing. Okay, where, but when with that, how do they get there? I don't feel like it's clear about what they're supposed to be writing down. Are they actually writing down all the directions?
That is what they're supposed to do.
So that, because that listing is going quite fast, and they're writing, go left, go right, stop at the lights.
Yeah.
Unless they've got shorthand, or they're savvy enough to use like abbreviations. I don't know
Yeah.
how they'll keep track.
It's a good point.
It's quite long-winded.
It's a good point, and also we didn't get a gist listening, so this is the first time they've heard that.
Exactly, right?
Now, I couldn't tell you the answer to how, because I was just listening. So now I need to hear it again for me to know how, right? So if I need to listen again to know how, then the students definitely need to listen again to know how. So yeah, I think we're missing a gist. And in terms of the point you made then about, they have to write all that down. Yeah, absolutely right. I think what's the obvious thing to do here? The students have a map and they draw on the map the directions, and then mark the location. It's a classic one, isn't it?
God damn it, Rich, making it simple yet again.
It's a classic one where you hear some directions and then you have to say like where the directions end up. So where are they actually going to? Oh yeah, the boop. Yeah, to get there, you just got to go down the street, turn a left, right at the shops, whatever, right? And then they gradually fill their map in with these mystery places that they learn by listening to different people when they're given the answer. Oh, excuse me, could you tell me how to get to the boop, please, right? And the bit beeped out, so they have to find out the answer. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
there's all kinds of stuff.
IELTS does that quite well. Normally they do the one where they will have a map and you're in the museum, and then it'll be like, where is the statue of the blah blah blah, and is it in the drawing room or is it in the stables or whatever? Like, oh no, I'm going to double back from the stables.
That's a classic like task one listening, isn't it?
Yeah. Can we mention what the hell is going on with what does he have that he's playing that listening from? It looks like he's modded a toolbox. He's got like an iPhone and a speaker in a modded toolbox.
It's a 1940s phonograph. Did you not have one in your classic language classroom?
Maybe if I did a Delta or a dip T-sol or something like that, I would get one. They don't have them on the Celtic course.
Yeah. Well, now it's all computers, isn't it? Just to emphasize about the audio, one of the points that I was criticizing about it, actually, I think it was synthetic. And I don't know why people haven't learned how to just speak normally on audios, but for some reason, whether they get actors or whatever, like you don't really get it. And then funnily enough, when you do get authentic audios, a lot of teachers don't know how to deal with it. And they'll say, oh, it's too difficult. It's like, it's not difficult. It's natural language. You're just used to working with synthetic language. So what do you do if you've got some natural language? Well, you've got to scaffold it a bit more, maybe cut it down a bit, focus on a specific part, give the students more context, teach the students how to understand natural language, and teach the students to focus on the stressed words, the key words, not having to hear every single word. And you don't need to hear every single word. That's how language works. It's so peculiar to me that for 30 years or longer, people have been talking about authentic materials and how important they are. And, you've had your Scott Thornberrys banging on about it as well. Even to the extent where, it's maybe even a bit too much. But still, the course books are just full of this stuff where it's like an actor, excuse me, could you tell me the way to blah, 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 please? It's like, well, who talks like that? Maybe you'll find like one person in, I don't know, who lives in Guildford who actually speaks like that, I don't think,
Yeah.
But like most people, 99.999% of the world they're never going to talk like that. They'll come up to you, they'll be, oh, sorry, mate, do you know where the roundabout is? Or do you know, is it this way to the town, or is it the other way? They're going to speak like that. And why use this fake stuff? It's just, it doesn't help. It doesn't help. I am firmly of the opinion that you get students using natural language and listening to natural language from the word go. And, just make it bite-sized though, but don't change it. Don't make it into something else. Don't make it into kiddie speak or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's just, I mean, I know it is horses for courses and it's different styles of teaching and stuff like that, but it's my perspective is absolutely authenticity. I'm a total convert, by the way, as well. I used to be a bit the other way. I used to be authenticity. I used to be one of the teachers who complained about it. Oh, that guy's got a really strong Yorkshire accent. How are intermediate students supposed to understand him? You know, not realizing that really he's just a normal guy speaking normally. And that's what was different about that audio. I remember one specifically, it was about this rocket scientist. He was like
From Yorkshire.
a back garden. Yeah. He was a back garden rocket scientist in Yorkshire.
That makes sense.
And no, but he got really famous because he'd got like he'd got like objects in space from his back garden and stuff like that, basically. And he got like hired by some space agency. And it was him talking about how his enthusiasm led to this kind of career in space rocketry.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just speaking naturally about it. And it was, God, all the students hated it. All the teachers hated it. Like teachers just started skipping that class, skipping that lesson in the book, you know, or we're not going to do that audio because it's way too difficult. And, you know, what we should have done actually is just kind of gone, well, yeah, maybe it is very difficult because it went on for ages as well, like 5 minutes long, but you can use it in a different way. Maybe just use the first 1 minute or something, chop it up a bit and scaffold it and give them some gap text or something and get a gist task and, you know, encourage the students to listen for keywords. There's all kinds of things you can do, but you're working with real language and it's almost like it's an opportunity. And, you know, most people were just batting it away because they're like, no, I want the audio where it's like, you know, yes, I've been working with rockets for 7 years and it all started in 1983 in my back garden with a plastic bottle and, you know, whatever.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I understand the intention behind it, the intention being that the materials producers of the audio and the books and stuff like that they're wanting to make to make English more accessible and, you know, like kind of easier to understand for students, to help them learn, but it's kind of shooting themselves in the foot because then maybe it is more accessible but they don't learn as well because they're not using authentic English. So the focus should rather be on having something authentic that the teacher can make accessible by helping them learn, by teaching.
Great. All right. Let's go.
I'll wind it up again.
I have to say, I do kind of like the background noises as well. I know that's a controversial topic, and people say, "Oh, I couldn't hear it because of the street sounds and blah blah blah." I don't know. I kind of like it every now and again. I mean, I don't think the audio should always sound like it was recorded in a sound booth, you know, a sound studio. I think there's something to be said for sort of street noises and stuff like that, personally.
Well, I'm a big fan of making random noises in the class. You know, I do very good animal impressions. Can you
okay,
can you just talk about this?
Now talk, partner. Talk with a partner. Just compare your answers. You just get up behind them.
It's exactly what I do. You gotta get right between them. Don't say anything, and then just moo as loud as you can. It's
Ask about what you did this
motivational.
weekend.
What can I say?
Well, on Saturday, I went to the... Teacher, please stop doing that. If you can't overcome these communicative challenges, how are you going to learn? Okay.
Okay, please tell your partner. Okay, so where? Yeah. And how? By car. Okay.
Oh.
I think it was by car. Let's listen to the second.
How is this about directions then? Are they because they're following the directions?
So I guess we didn't pay attention when he was dictating his thing, because I assumed it was going to be directions. So where Church Street, how by car? Yeah, there's a problem here, isn't there? There's something. I don't know if we weren't paying attention or if there was something wrong with the way he set that up, but it was definitely not what I expected. So yeah, there you go.
Two.
It's really confusing as well, because the majority of the listening was actually directions.
Yeah, so is
So
that why
all they needed to listen for was that he was driving. They just needed to listen for the noun at the start and that he was driving.
it doesn't make
Okay.
it doesn't make much sense. It's kind of
I
like
don't think it makes sense.
if
Yeah,
you're doing a class about directions, surely you would be using directions, producing directions yourself, no?
Well, I guess we're going to go on to that now, but yeah, I definitely.
All right, well,
don't
we'll
like
see
that.
where we're going. Maybe he's got some prestige at the end.
He could have done it as more of a gist task, but it didn't seem like a gist task. I mean, they were listening for specific information. So,
Okay, so we heard lots of directions, but we also heard people asking for directions. On the board, I've written what they asked, but I've left out some words. With the person next to you, so you two together, two, 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 two. Can you talk about what words you think are in the gaps, please? Go.
Students come right there.
he leans heavily on that kind of slow instructional speaking rather than grading his language, I think.
Yeah, it's
Can you
it's
talk?
almost like he's not thought about the instructions
Yeah. Which, by the way,
or planned them out at least.
this happens to everyone in day-to-day classes. You know, you don't necessarily have the best instructions. You know, it is something we should all think about more. But when it comes to an observed class, which this is definitely 100%, you can tell he keeps looking down at his lesson plan. It's an observed class. He knows it. You got to script your instructions. Okay. Talk about what words you think are in the gaps. That's not the best way of giving that instruction, is it? Definitely not. Not for pre-intermediate.
Well, I quite liked this word, but I wasn't keen on that word. I didn't understand that word because the teacher was making squawking noises.
Yeah. Just what words are in the gaps with a partner? Compare.
Well, maybe he
Done.
just wanted them to. That's the swerve again, you know?
Yeah. I think it's a question of when to use synthetic graded language, when to use real language. And it feels like it's a point that Kit hasn't learned yet. By the way, I think we can tell that Kit hasn't been a teacher for that long.
Mm-hmm.
I would say in this video, maybe 2 years maximum. You know, he seems like someone who hasn't, compared to, remember we looked at the lady the other day who was doing the finger loading correction.
Ellie, yeah.
He was clearly very experienced.
Oh, she was amazing. Props to Ellie.
Well, let's listen and let's check now.
Module 8, recording 9. 1.
Can you help me? I'm looking for Church Street.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does he say can or does he say can? Can. Which word does he really make loud from here? Can you help me? Which word? Help. Okay.
I find it so funny that he's doing this, which is obviously the right thing to do.
But it should
But
have been done a little bit earlier, maybe.
Well, he didn't feel the need to do it when he was dictating, when he did the dictation task before.
That's true, yeah.
And yeah, it's a little bit confusing to me. I mean, surely that could confuse the students as well, that they're like, yeah, but before you said, where is the, or whatever, what is the name of the, how come you said that before? And now you're telling us that, it's, what's the name of the, basically.
Okay, so he's stressed help. And here, let's listen again. Let's see what he does.
There's a lot of self-talk, isn't there? There's a lot of let's do this. Let's listen and see what he does. There's yeah. I don't think I'm not blaming Kit for this. I think everybody sort of does this, particularly as a newer teacher. It's kind of like I think someone called it once. They called it kind of babbling, or it's like this teacher babble kind of. You're just saying stuff that the students don't need. So, for example, if the students don't actually understand you, it just becomes kind of confusing noise.
Can you help me?
What does he say? Can you? Can you? Can you? So it sounds more like, can you? Everybody, can you? Can you help me?
Can you help me?
Wonderful. Very happy.
Excuse me, how can we get to Central Station, please?
Excuse me, how can we get to Central Station, please?
Good. With your partner...
The only thing I would say about that choral drill there is, and this happens a lot, it's like it's the natural way that people do a choral drill. When you say, excuse me, what did he say? Can you tell me how to get to Central Station, please? And the class went, can you tell me how to get to Central Station, please? In this sort of robotic, I'll just show it again.
Station, please.
Excuse me, how can we get to Central Station, please?
Right. So there's ways that you can get around that. One that weirdly works is the clap. Can you tell me how to get to Central Station, please? And for some reason, I don't know why, but the clap gets people to actually to really copy you rather than to say, can you tell me how to get to, right? It works. It works. So you just clap on the stressed words. And interestingly enough, not only does the word stress seem to transfer, but the intonation transfers better.
Oh, right.
I don't know why, but it works.
Good. With your partner, you two.
Also, personally, if you're going to do a choral drill, then I think there's something to be said for following up with a pair drill. Just a point there.
Oh, it'd be pretty fast and easy to fit in. Why not?
Yeah.
Especially
and then again with a partner, take a turn to say the sentence, and everyone just has a go. Excuse me, can you tell me how to get to there, please?
And then you go now with your partner, and you're into this activity that he's about to do now.
Also, you can monitor individuals when they're doing paired drilling.
You two. Can you practice saying these sentences to each other, please? Now, is it the Church Street or is it Church Street?
Church Street.
Okay.
Not the church.
That's nice, isn't it?
Can you take your book and open it on page 77, please? Let's look at some of the language for giving directions now. At the bottom, you'll see some pictures. Above, there's a box with some expressions. Please, can you match the expressions to the pictures? Jonathan, what do I want you to do?
March the sentence in the correct direction.
Lovely. So march or match?
Match.
Match, lovely. Okay. Okay, so what's the first one? Let's go round. So this one.
Turn left at the traffic lights.
Lovely. So turn left at the traffic lights. The second one. I'm going to give you all a map. So here is your map. You're going to look for these places. I have a different map. I have to ask you where some places are. So I will start with this language. So, can you tell me how to get to the nearest cafe, please?
Oh, he's not using his own pronunciation. He said, "Can you tell me? Can you tell me?"
You cross Station Road with the first street. Go ahead, and after turn right. Turn right.
Go straight and turn right. Brilliant. So do not show your piece of paper to your partner.
No, it's a secret. It's a secret.
And practice.
I'm being quite critical of kids' instructions, I guess. I think it's definitely the major area for improvement for him is instructions, and then understanding when authentic language is better and synthetic language is better.
I have some other comments on that, but I'm going to leave it to the end.
All right.
Using the language that we've just used, okay?
What doesn't sit well with me is that it is so adequate. And I think what it is, it's not really to do with Kit so much. You know, yes, he's obviously a newer teacher, but I think it's just that he's teaching by numbers. You know, he's basically just following the materials, and he's just a vessel for these materials. And he's done his CLT, and he's coloring within the lines, and it's perfectly adequate. He's a dream for someone to just pick him up, fly into a different country. Here's your book, and he teaches the book. And
I agree.
It's fine. It's fine. But if you look at the students' faces, how engaged are they? How much are they enjoying the class? I'm not so sure, and I don't feel it has to be a case of, well, you're learning, so you know it's not about enjoyment. I think with a dynamic teacher that's experienced, that's got tools to, you know, accommodate, you know, different learners' styles, and they could come up with something a little bit more than what the book has, you know. And it's just the way that all of that class was structured as well. You could tell it's like, okay, he's moving from this exercise to this exercise over the different pages, and maybe it wasn't designed to these activities weren't designed to be taught within this particular lesson, but he's done 3 pages over in one class when you're not supposed to, per the book or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just, yeah, buy the book.
Yeah, it seems like a very CLT class, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it's a super CLT class.
And
like,
it's funny
yeah,
how you
class.
say that in a it kind of sounds, it's a bad way, but why is that?
I think excuse me, I think CLT it's like an early stepping stone. We've talked about it a lot. It produces, from someone who doesn't know how to teach languages, it produces someone who you can slot into your academy.
Yeah.
It forms the cog for your machine, but it doesn't particularly celebrate innovation, creativity, advanced techniques, engagement. Like you said, there's a lot of sort of by the numbers thing going on there.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's really where the next stage comes in, isn't it? It's a somewhat necessary step, I think, to go through the CLTA and to do that. I mean,
but for many, it's the final step. That's the thing, you know.
Well, that's the issue, yeah.
You learn to teach English, and the thing that you'll hear was, oh, you need to do your CLTA, but it's like, it's kind of like the end, when it's really is just the beginning. Yeah, it's funny how we have these tiers. You know, there's lots of people that enter English language teaching, and they enter much like ourselves from doing like a short TEFL course, and you know, and don't really know anything, but you've just got enthusiasm, and then you stick with it for a while, and you get a CLTA, and then that's kind of like you actually know what you're doing. Well, maybe even a little bit before then, but then that next level, people generally don't get to, or they get to with a lot more experience, and the decision to go, actually, you know, this CLTA's great and all, but it's adequate, but I think I can do something a bit different, and then, you know, they get the confidence to break out. So it's kind of like 3 tiers. No, it's what is that? What's that? It's the psychology thing where it's first you don't know that you don't know, then you know that you don't know, and then you
that's right.
don't know that you know. I can't remember how it goes, but
yeah, it's unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence, and then unconscious competence is the final step.
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's when you get blackout drunk. That's what I call unconscious competence.
Okay, so yeah, so I think it's adequate, isn't it? And certainly better than some of the absolute rubbish that we've seen in the past. I mean, it's decent. You know, people can learn from that. Particularly a good student could go into that class and come away with some stuff. But how do we know? And what if they already know these things as well? What if they're kind of going into that class already being familiar with those things? Where is the opportunity for a bit more of a challenge? There might have been a bit of an aha moment when he did the Kenya, but it sort of seemed like an island in the middle of nowhere. It's like suddenly he's about Kenya. He didn't do any work with it, and he himself violated the rule when he was modeling the next activity. So there was a bit of a mishmash, wasn't there? A bit of a sort of a crazy Lego creation, which doesn't really look like anything. So there needed to be something going on there. And I really wonder if experience and also a desire to continually develop is really what's missing there. What you have is someone who's done the CLTA and is doing a lot of things, and maybe kind of has seen them or heard about why they're good and why they're useful, like, for example, weak forms and Kunya, but doesn't fully understand where to put it, how to use it, how to follow on with it.
Yeah.
Also, I kind of wonder exactly, I mean, he did write it on the board, but I wonder exactly what the lesson aim was. What was the communicative aim here? Students will be able to ask and answer for directions, something like that. He kind of does that, doesn't he? I mean, I think what we saw at the end was more of a controlled practice, though, wasn't it? Because it was kind of like fixed questions that they were asking each other and then giving answers to.
I like I said, I don't think it was a lesson plan per se. You know, like if you're going to follow like a PPP, I don't feel like that was the order. I feel like he was literally following the exercise,
the book
in the
yeah
book. You know, like this is a listening, this is a speaking, this is the grammar explanation, and
right. And
he's not.
there's like a little pronunciation bit in the middle.
Yeah. Just literally doing it by the book. And the thing is, with the books, is they sometimes give you a syllabus or curriculum that you follow, that you do this and this for one half an hour lesson or whatever. But most of the time, as a teacher, I found that I have to go in and kind of look at the activities over a span of like the 5 pages and go, okay, how do I need to piece this together so it has linear structure? You know, how do I introduce the new this language point? How do I then practice it and go produce it and then arrange it so that I keep building upon it? You know, what are the key points and stuff? And, you know, I don't think he's done that. I think he's literally just following the book.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, so
maybe with a little bit of thought, but otherwise, yeah. Because there was the listening grid. Well, it could be from the book. I don't know.
I think it seems like something that would be in the book. You know, like a little grid that you fill out, and he's just you know, he's bordered that so they can check their answers.
Yeah.
So his new direction, perfectly adequate. Probably not enough to satisfy the students. So, you know, we'll just wrap it up from there. Do you have any final thoughts about Kit and his lesson?
It lacked, you know, this is it. This is what I prescribe for Kit. I prescribe Jamie Keddy. What Kit needs to do is he needs to get some Jamie Keddy lesson plans and do them and discover something else about teaching. And another thing I might prescribe for Kit is trying some TBL. Basically, I would say that Kit needs to go and experiment with some lessons where you don't touch a course book and that involve some other techniques that aren't kind of those sort of standard PPP style techniques.
Yeah, maybe just like hand him a potato and go, 50 ways to describe how to use this potato. Go.
something along those lines.
Something
maybe.
Crazy.
Yeah, even as far as a dogme could be good, but maybe that's a bit of a step too far. But some experimentation, and I think that's probably some experimentation and reflection. I think would probably be the best thing that Kit could do. And even saying, look, what you're going to do, Kit, is go onto Jamie Cuddy's lesson stream, grab 3 or 4 lessons from there, and then without referring to the course book at all, I want you to deliver those lessons and then reflect on them. Reflect on what you think worked well, what didn't work well, what surprised you, what you found difficult, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Lovely bit of development, and I'm sure that Kit would benefit greatly from that.
Yeah, or just even take whatever book that he's using there, going into the syllabus, the index at the back, finding out what is that language point of that particular section, and then instead of giving him the book, just give him the language point and go, here you go. What are you going to do with it? And, see if you can create something from that. But yeah, perfectly adequate, pre-intermediate. Anything more that you want to add?
Nope.
So
No, that's
those watching,
well, it's just try and see it in a positive way, isn't it? It's try and say, and the thing is that this video is probably recorded about 15 years ago, so Kit is probably like the dog's bollocks these days. If he ever comes across the video, he'll probably laugh his ass off at our ridiculous comments.
He's probably bringing live animals into the classroom. It's like, this is completely unrelated to the language point, but I've got a tiger right here. Let's talk about new directions. What about the tiger? Yeah, you're going to have these obstacles in English language speaking and communication. You just got to deal with it.
How are you going to ask for new directions?
If there's a tiger present, yeah. But if you are watching and you have some thoughts about Kit's lesson, about teaching pre-intermediate level, about our spicy commentary, let us know in the comments below. If you're looking for more information from myself, you can go to teamteacherchina.com. We've got a whole bunch of materials, PowerPoints that you can use instantly in the classroom. We've got a Team Teacher China YouTube channel where we have videos teaching you how to use those materials. Team Teacher English, where we put those materials into a video form for self-study. And Team Teacher Baby, where I take my experience as a teacher and put that into parenting.
And go to youtube.com/Professor Rich to see some English teaching. You can catch me weekly live streams on Oxford Online English YouTube channel. Oh, and also you can do a YouTube search for POG space UK, and you would get my alpha version of my new gaming channel, which actually just has some trial content on there at the moment. You can email us here at eltunderthecovers@gmail.com if you have anything you'd like to contribute to the show.
Smash that like button, share and subscribe.
And watch 100% of the video and don't click off. Thank you.
Bye.